Hello everyone. Today I want to tell you something about the raster editing tool that you can find in the LISEM software. And this editing tool is more like a paint that you can use to make small and quick edits to raster data. So let's dive into it. So if I go to some of the data files I have here, I have an elevation model. If I activate the hill shade view here and zoom in a little bit, you can see there are a couple of artifacts here. And you can notice them by these lines that are visible in the hill shading. Now these lines indicate the individual tiles of data that were collected and later glued together. And due to small elevation errors, you find that there's an artifact here. When you do actual flow modeling, this can come back and influence your flow simulation results quite a bit. So what can we do with this? Well, normally one approach would be to make a shapefile and digitize the area where the errors are and then try to apply some smoothing operation. But we can do it in a simpler way. I'm going to press right mouse button on the layer and click the edit. Now I get access to some of this editing functionality. And you can see my cursor also as a highlighted area in a lighter color. Now what I want to do here maybe is I want to apply some blurring operation in a smooth ellipsoid area, maybe 200 meters size. And when I press the shift button and click to apply this operation, you see that this artifact disappears as snow before the sun. There's many other operations you can do. So for example, if we want to edit the original elevation values instead, let's zoom in a little bit. And imagine, for example, that we want to implement a quick scenario where we have a barrier in our elevation model. We might go ahead and say, for example, that we have an elevation of 7. So I fill in the value here. Let's say that we want to paint values. And pressing the shift button, we can paint this into the elevation model. Now, do note that this all works in 3D as well. So if I make my elevation model three-dimensional and go to the 3D viewer, we can go ahead and still apply the same paint operations in here, and it all just works. Now there's many alternative things you might do with the other operations that are provided. So say for example that I don't like the position of this mountain at all, but instead I might want to move that by quite a bit. Well, let me pick a larger area, select the liquefy option, and I can move this entire region slightly to the left for my convenience. Other options here are the polygon. So let's say we want to paint some kind of value for a plateau or something like that. We can select the polygon area, hold shift, press the enter button, and we apply a painted value to our polygon. Well, in 3D that looks a little bit strange, and this is also a strange edit to make to an elevation model. But when we go back to the 2D view, yes, there we go. We can see that we effectively painted the polygon area. Finally, we also have lines, rectangles, and multiplication, subtraction, blur, liquefy, and drag as operations. So there's a lot you can do with this for quick edits. You can also paint missing value. So typically our raster data comes with areas that do have a value and areas that do not have a value, typically called missing value. So in this case, we can actually also paint a polygon area where we want missing values to be, or if we want an ellipsoid area where we want missing values to be. If instead we want to override missing values, we can also do that. So now we're going to only paint in areas where we draw, but also override those missing value cells that we have. So that allows us to fill in any missing data as well. Now at the moment you see that the painting operation is applied smoothly, but if we instead of having a feather value of 1, we had a feather value of 0, the painting application is instant. Okay, well, I won't save this because I will need the actual data here later, but I'm probably going to fix the artifacts that you noticed using this method. Close without saving. Okay, you might wonder, what else can we do here if we want this missing data to be gone? Well, there's a couple other methods that might be interesting. So let's have a look at another data set. If we go to another, let's say elevation model of a part of this area, like this. And we're going to edit it so that we have some missing data. Well, let me first save it as a separate file. Test.tif is equal to tem.map. And we will go to the file test.tif and open it. Now I'm going to edit this and I say missing value painting. And maybe here I want just to show you how we're going to replace those values. I'm going to remove some data in this elevation model. Just like that. Okay, so let me save this, close the editor. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use a special function available in LISEM to fill in those missing values. And there's a lot of traditional methods available, like inverse distance, bridging, that kind of interpolation methods. But one particularly easy method here is inpainting. So let's make a new map. We're going to call it test2.tif. Is equal to, and we're going to use the inpaint, and there's a couple options here. The one I like is the inpaint Navier-Stokes version, inpaint NS it's called. So I'm going to input it with my data set that has the holes, and I'm going to give a step size of 10 pixels per iteration. Oh, and I see I made a spelling mistake. There we go. Oh, well, that's quite quickly, and it's done. And as you see, it inpaints all of the missing values, not only inside my area, but also outside my area. Now, I'm not that interested at the moment to these flat areas because I actually have data there, and of course, outside it's going to extrapolate some smooth terrain. But inside, you can notice that it did actually quite well in filling in the actual elevation data. Now, the hill shape actually accentuates the errors by quite a bit. But if we look at the actual values instead, you can see that it does a really good job of quickly inpainting these areas, especially in a hydrologically consistent manner. So that can be very useful.